Creations. I'm Crystal, and in this video I'm going to teach you how to do the single crochet cluster stitch. So it's just a little variation to the single crochet stitch that you can kind of incorporate into your pattern. They'd be great for dishcloths. I mean, you can make a blanket with this stitch as well. So I've already kind of started my little swatch sample here, just to kind of give you an idea as to what it'll look like. So you see how you get these little cluster stitches. So you kind of alternate a different process between two different rows, and you just go back and forth. So to start it off, I'm going to chain one, and then I'm going to turn my work. So we're going to single crochet into the first stitch, yarn over and pull through, and then we're going to chain, but we're going to skip a stitch. So we're going to move into this one here. I'm just going to do a single crochet. It's the only stitch we're doing in this, and then we got to chain one again, and then we skip a stitch. And then we chain again, skip a stitch, single crochet, chain. So you're going to chain after every single crochet, and you're going to skip a stitch, and then chain, and then we're just going to do a single crochet into the last stitch here. Okay, so that finishes that row. So we're going to chain one again, and we're going to turn. So in this next one, we're once again in the very first stitch, we're going to do a single crochet and chain one. But the next thing we're going to do now is we're going to work into this chain space. So you're going to see this little kind of gap that you have where all the chain spaces were happening. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to, in each of those chain spaces, we're going to tie them together. So, and we're just doing a single crochet. So what you do is you insert your hook into that chain space. So it's space right there. And pull up a loop. So instead of finishing it, we're actually going to move right into the next chain space. And then we're going to pull up a loop. And then we're going to pull through all three loops to finish that. So it just is going to pull it together, give you that cluster. So then of course we're going to chain one. Now we're going to go back into that same chain space that we just finished in, and we're going to go in, we're going to pull up a loop, and then we're going to go into that next chain space, the next open hole there. Go back in, and then now we have three loops on our hook, and we're just going to pull all three loops through. And then of course we're going to chain one. So again, back into that chain space that we just were in, pull up a loop, and then back into the next chain space. Pull up a loop, and then you're going to pull through all three loops. Chain one, and once again we're going to go back into that last chain space, pull up a loop, we're going to go into that chain space, and then we're going to pull up a loop. And then we're going to chain one, and then we're just going to single crochet into this very last stitch. Okay, so we've completed our cluster. So then you would just alternate again. You're just going to go where you chain one, turn your work, single crochet into that first stitch, chain one, you're going to skip a stitch, go into the next one. So that chain one is what creates that space that we work into in the next row. Okay, and don't forget to chain one, skip a stitch, chain one, stitch, chain 1, skip a stitch, and then single crochet into that very last stitch. Okay, so once again, I'm just going to finish off this next row. So I'm going to chain 1 and turn your work. We always do a single crochet into the first stitch, and chain 1, and then now we're going to go into that chain space. So through, and then we got to go into the next chain space, through, pull through all 3 loops, chain 1, and again we go back into the last chain space that we were just in, pull up a loop, and go into the next chain space and pull up a loop, and then pull through all 3 loops, and chain 1. So again, back into that chain space we were just in, and then into the next chain space before you finish that off, and then you're going to pull through all 3 loops on your hook, and chain 1. So again, back into the same chain space, into the next one, and pull through all 3 loops, and then we just single crochet into the last stitch. And that's all you do. You just alternate between those 2 rows, the 2 variations there. You just, so yeah, like I said, just it's kind of a different look with the single crochet. It just creates kind of a cluster effect. I think it's really neat. It looks really good on washcloths, so, or dishcloths. But yeah, so that is the single crochet cluster stitch.